In this lesson, I will discuss the types of mediation as well as the success of mediation, multi-party one. There are two kinds of mediation, single-party mediation and multi-party mediation. Single-party mediation is mediation that only one actor is involved. Multi-party mediation is a mediation carried out by several parties towards helping peace talks in a conflict. These initiatives might happen sequentially or by a broker at a time or simultaneously by various mediators with different institutional bases. Multi-party mediation should be considered as the only means to settle this kind of challenge. Individual biased mediators in multi-party mediation are capable of balancing each other. When biased mediators balance each other, all belligerents are more likely to accept the suggested concessions as a result of having a broker who supports their interests within a mediation team, and consequently as a result of perceiving the mediation team as credible. That's why all members of multi-party mediation team can keep their legitimacy and credibility in relation to all disputants. Credibility of information in balanced and unbalanced mediation. In balanced mediations, disputants are more likely to reveal information to brokers that are biased in favor of them. There are several mediators in balanced multi-party mediations, some of which are biased toward one party or the other. Under these circumstances, both conflicting sides are confident that their information will not become distorted, but rather will be credibly revealed by the mediators, which in turn will not cause a renewed war or leave them in a worse bargaining position. That's why it is more likely that each belligerent will provide relevant information to its patron about itself. It is for this reason that biased mediators are able to easily provide exact information about both conflicting sides. Having successful implementation of credibility of information factor makes it possible and important for fragile disputants to decide to continue the negotiation process. As in Meninga's argumentation on unbalanced mediation, I argue that combination of impartial and biased mediators that lead to unbalanced mediation are capable of providing credible information. However, if unbalanced mediation is able to credibly collect information, it doesn't guarantee the success of mediation because of not eliminating the other concerns of an underrepresented party. Underrepresented belligerent is also less likely to provide exact information about its real condition to a mediator in order to have that information to be delivered to its opponents. Such shortage of information provision by an underrepresented side might affect the outcome of the conflict or might result in to be cheated. This kind of distrust is also observed on the other side. Leverage in balanced and unbalanced multi-party mediation. Balanced mediation team is able to have leverage on both disputants because of their separate biased relationships with both sides. Mediators might have different kind of alliance, namely political, economic, or cultural relations with the sides. Having these direct relationships or being absolute biased affects the perception of disputant against the multi-party mediation team as well as whole mediation process. Since there is not any underrepresented side and the patron broker protects the interests of the belligerents, none of the sides perceive themselves as deceived when making a compromise. As such, belligerents tend to accept any kind of peaceful proposal suggested by its patron. As belligerent's patron is able to force or convince its proteges to make a compromise, balanced mediation is more likely to lead compromise or a mutually accepted peace agreement in multi-party mediation. With regard to the leverage issue, lack of leverage in an unbalanced mediation team over an underrepresented belligerent also impedes the success of mediation. Biased mediator has leverage on the other side, it is biased toward, but there is not any other mediator that is biased toward opposite sides, and thus has leverage on the other side to force parties to come to the compromise in unbalanced mediation process. In other words, none of the mediators is biased in favor of other underrepresented side in unbalanced mediation. Under such circumstance, for the sake of peaceful settlement of the conflict, none of brokers has leverage on the underrepresented disputants in order to make a compromise. As unbalanced mediation is more likely to fail in getting leverage on both disputants, and unbalanced or one-sided compromise will not be favored by the belligerent and hence will be less likely to lead success of mediation. After discussing credibility of information and leverage, we are going to talk about the third factor, which is commitment problem. After discussing credibility of information and leverage issues in multi-party mediation, we are going to talk about the commitment problem, which is the third factor in the success of multi-party mediation. Finally, let's discuss question whether it is possible to solve the commitment problem in balanced or unbalanced multi-party mediation. In the same way that the credibility and leverage of unbalanced mediation team is explained, the commitment problem is also more likely to be successfully settled when both belligerents possesses patronage mediation during the multi-party mediation process in conflict. Protection of both sides' positions and interests in a conflict by a biased mediator eliminates all their concerns like commitment problems. Parties might be skeptical about the implementation of an agreement which can hinder the entire peace resolution process of the conflict. However, mediators are capable of guaranteeing that they are responsible for any kind of violence committed. If the rebel side tries to hinder the peace process, the government biased mediator is motivated to protect the government side. As such, belligerents are more likely to accept the peace agreement proposed by the balanced multi-party mediation. In other words, acceptance of balanced multi-party mediation team by both belligerents is considered as a signal that parties are willing to make a peace agreement. After credibility and leverage, the following important issue in mediation process is to eliminate the commitment problems of conflicting sides when a peace agreement is signed. In an unbalanced multi-party mediation, one of the disputants has a patronage during the negotiation process, but the opposite side doesn't have the advantage of having an actor to support its interests. In this hazardous and risky situation, the underrepresented disputant perceives that the opposite side might try to violate the negotiation process or the implementation of the achieved peace agreement. Nevertheless, none of the mediators in such lopsided mediation team will be eager to prevent this kind of violence or destructive behavior from spoilers committed by the opponent party. It is more likely that a biased mediator will support its protege in all manners in case of re-escalation of the conflict. Thus, underrepresentation of a side will contribute to unresolved commitment problems. As a result, the underrepresented disputant in an unbalanced mediation process will not be willing to leave itself in a situation with no guarantees of its interests and concerns being protected by a mediator. Ultimately, such a disputant will not accept any peace proposal suggested by an unbalanced mediation team. Thank you very much for watching us.